folks, Ryan here from Mr. Row's Gaming Rants and Reviews, and I've got another review for you today. A little game that we've been playing a little bit lately with our oldest son, and it's become a really big hit at family game nights, and that is Barenpark by Phil Walker Harding and published by Lookout Games. Oh man, Barenparks are apparently the big thing to create nowadays, so why not just have this friendly little competition to see who can build the best Barenpark by collecting the most victory points? Oh boy, we got a polyomino tile laying game extravaganza here. So join me at the table and I'll show you what's inside the box and how to play. Okay, so here we have Barenpark by Phil Walker Harding and Lookout Games. Let's take a look at what the components are for this game. Now remember, this is not an unboxing video, but rather this game has been well played. As you can kind of see, there's already some scuff marks coming on the side of my copy here, just because it has been pulled off the shelf quite a number of times. So let's take a look at what's going on inside here. So first off, you see that there's the rule book that I've got placed nicely on top, and this is actually a pretty decent rule book. It's not lengthy by all means. It's only about 5 or 6 pages long, and does a very good job of outlining the setup. And you kind of open it up here and outlines the gameplay very, very well. What the icons are, what happens at the game end, what the expert variant, the quote-unquote expert variant, we'll get into that in a little bit, and then kind of, some extra information about some of the achievement tiles and whatnot and everything. So it's a very good rule book. It's a very it's very straightforward, really laid out very nicely, very visual, very colorful. Got no complaints here about the rule book. And then what's underneath the rule book is, oh my gosh, baggies upon baggies of tiles, because what this box came with, what they tried to do as an insert, was give us a couple long pieces of cardboard to kind of create these triangular sections, and I don't know what it was trying to accomplish. There was no way that I was fitting what's currently in here inside of that. So I've got my baggie of what they refer to as the enclosures. Okay, I call them like the super special tiles. Okay, we're gonna see those a little bit later in the gameplay. So I got those sorted into a bag, and then we've got the animal house tiles that I've got all in here. They're all in their own separate bag. And we've got the rivers and food street tiles in a bag. And then I also have the kind of, the playgrounds and the washroom tiles in their own little bag as well. And then there I've got the bear statue tiles. They're in their own separate little bag. Lots of tiles. And then I also have all of the achievement tiles organized nicely into their own little bag. And then, of course, we've got the park tiles. Okay, so they're all of them are different, except for they are double-sided. So you can kind of see there's the country that is associated with this. So like the English-speaking countries here, there it's actually called Barenpark. And then on the other side, you flip it over, and then this one has what is that? The Czechoslovakia flag here. Now here's the thing that I don't understand here. If this is a different side of the tile, I would think that the icons should be a little bit more different, but they're not. They're laid out exactly the same no matter which side of the tile you are on. That is weird. That is very weird. I would have liked to see a little bit more asymmetry on just one single tile. Now, of course, this tile, okay, with the Swiss, okay, it's different than this one, but on its alternate side, it's the exact same. In Japan, it's laid out the exact same way. Weird. And same thing with the other tiles. So there's really only 4 different tiles in the game. And they're double-sided to make the illusion that there's 8 different tiles, but really there's only 4. Kind of pick the country. That was a missed opportunity, I think, from a component standpoint, that you could have created a little bit more variability and a little bit more asymmetry on how players started. But again, I nitpick a little bit. And then we have all of the extension tiles. And again, these are also all double-sided, but they are the same front and back on all of these tiles. So there's only, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's only 12 more tiles that you can go through. There was some possibility that you could have got even more if they made the double sides a little bit different. But that's the choice that they made, and that's what we're sticking to. And then finally, there is the nice big layout board. Flip it over. That kind of just keeps track of all of your pieces instead of just laying them out all over the table. Everything kind of organizes everything very nicely so that you kind of know what tiles to grab when, and they're very laid out nicely. So if you cover a wheelbarrow piece, here's all the wheelbarrow tiles. If you got the cement, you cover over a cement mixer piece, these are the ones that are associated that you can take. If you cover an excavator tile, these are the tiles that you're allowed to take. Okay, so it's very handy. Trifold, it takes up a little bit of real estate, but not too much. I've got no problems with this. I actually really enjoy this board, just the way how everything's all nicely organized, and it reminds you here on how many what tiles go into which places based on your player count. So like in the 2-player game, 6, 4, and 2s are used, where in a 3-player game it's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2s. And then over here as well, though this was a very early edition of the game, they got this iconography over here mixed up. Okay, there should have been these playground tiles should actually have 10 beside it, and that this 8 for a 2-player game, 12, 16 should be actually pointing towards the street tiles. But I've got that all nicely clarified in my mind. So just note that my early printing here, that these icons are actually backwards. Okay, so those are the components of Barenpark. Let me take all of this and set it up, and I'll show you how to play. Okay, so we are set up here for a 2-player game of Barenpark. And a couple things to note when you are setting up a game of Barenpark is that there are a few things that are based on player count. For example, the bear statues tiles, they are different depending on the player count. So in a 2-player game here, we are only using 16 through 2, just the even numbers. Also based on player count is going to be the value of the animal enclosure tiles. In a 2-player game, we are only using the 6, 4s, and 2s, but it is different in 3 and 4-player games, and that's printed right here on the board. Also, what's going to depend on player count is the number of river and street tiles that are available. In a 2-player game, there are 8 available of each. And every single game, no matter what player count, there's always going to be 10 parks and 10 washrooms that are available. And of course, these special tiles that can be claimed with the excavator icon, these are always available in all the player games. And then what else is different if you are playing with the expert, the quote-unquote expert variant, when you have these achievement tiles, in a 2-player game, you only use the level 1s and the level 2s. So in this case, I'll bring them up here. You can see that they say level 1, level 2 on them. There are level 3 tiles that are worth less amount of points on them as well. Like this one has level 3. This is not used in a 2-player game, only in 3 and 4-player games. Those ones would be used if you are using the achievements. Okay, so how does a game of Barenpark work? Well, when you randomly select the first player goes, they always start off with a single washroom tile, and the second player is always going to start off with a park tile, and in the later and then the higher player counts, the third place player, they're going to start with a street tile. Correction on that, in a 3 and 4 player game, those players, the third and fourth player, are going to start with a food street tile. So how does a game of Barenpark work? Well, the turns are actually fairly straightforward. If you have a tile in front of you, you place it. You can place one on the board. There are going to be rounds where you may have multiple tiles in front of you, and you just simply select one and you place it onto your player board. Now, what you want to do, though, is that you want to place it so that you may get some more tiles. And how you get some more tiles is that you have to cover these particular icons that are printed on your player boards. Covering up a wheelbarrow icon will allow you to take one of these tiles that are in the wheelbarrow section of the game board here. And these ones are fairly straightforward. They don't provide you any points. They're a little bit smaller, and they kind of help you fill in the gaps of your player boards. And I'm going to get to why you're going to want to fill in your gaps relatively quickly. The other icon that we can see on the main player board here is the cement mixer. And then when you cover a cement mixer piece, that allows you to take one of the animal enclosure tiles. And these ones are starting to be worth victory points. The number printed on them is going to be the number of points that that particular tile is worth. So taking a cement mixer and allowing you to take one of these tiles will allow you to say, once you claim a tile on your turn, you simply place it into your area so that it is ready to place on the next turn. And then our opponent is also going to come over here. They're going to place down, they say they also want to take a cement mixer tile, and you know what? They are probably looking at, say, one of these tiles here, and they're going to put it in their play area. And then it's back to the next player. And in this case, they can now put down their tile. Now, when they go down to put another tile down, though, here's the catch. You have to place it so that it is already touching one of your previously placed tiles. And there's some restrictions on these boards. For example, I cannot place my tile like this such that it overhangs the edge of the board. I cannot do that. I cannot place this particular tile here because you cannot cover up these. I call them manholes, but these are spots that are reserved for the bear statues. Okay, so you can't cover up those ones. So in this case, this particular tile only has one legal placement here. Oh, sorry, and I can't do this. I can't put it here so that's only touching the corner of a previous tile. That's not allowed. So I guess the only thing that I would be able to do with this particular tile is place it right here. Now, of course, I covered up a wheelbarrow space in this time. So now it'll allow me to take a wheelbarrow tile. So maybe I'll take a food street and type like that. And that's what you're going to do. Now, let's just say here, this person, they put their tile right there. They covered up 2 wheelbarrow spaces, so they get kind of 2 icons. So maybe they'll also take a food street, but then they also are going to maybe take one of these river tiles as well. So now they've got 2 options on their particular turn. Now on our turn, we're going to come here and we're going to say, okay, this food street is now going to come right here. It's legal because it is going to be touching one of my regular tiles. But this time we're covering up the construction icon. And when you cover up a construction icon, you get to extend your playing area. In this example, you're always going to be 2 stacks of tiles, and you simply will just take one of those top 2 stacks. And of course, it doesn't matter because they're the double-sided, even though both sides are exactly the same. And then once I say I claim one, let's say I'm going to take this one, I get to extend my park. I can either put it on the left of a current tile. I can put it to the right of a current tile. I can even put it above a current tile. And you know what? In this case, I will maybe do this. I'll place it to the side here. And then that's my turn. Now, this is actually a particularly dangerous situation because now at the end of my turn, I don't have any tiles now to place on my next turn. So when it comes back around to me, so let's say our opponent here, they place down their tile, and they're also going to get a board extension. They're just going to take this board extension right here, and they will also extend to the left just for example purposes, and they do have a tile. Now it comes around to my turn. I don't have a tile to place. I have to pass. Okay, and passing is kind of like, you kind of miss a turn. But when you pass, you get to claim one wheelbarrow tile. So maybe in this case, I'll take another, I'll take another food street type of thing. And now I get to place that on my next turn, and then my opponent gets to keep going. Now my opponent says, well, okay, I got this tile. Maybe I can now come over here, and I'm going to cover up this one. This is a really good particular piece, is that they get to claim a cement mixer, and they also get, now that they covered an excavator, they also get a special tile excavator. I believe they call them enclosures for this one. So maybe they'll take, for their cement mixer, they'll take this piece. You know what? No, let's back that up here. Instead of the cement mixer, then maybe they'll just take another one of these. And you know what? Then they'll take, now when you're looking at these tiles, they are worth points. They're worth 6, 7, and 8 points. And the higher the point value, the trickier that particular tile is to get onto the player board. And you know what? Maybe this time they're going to take this nice W-shaped 8 tile as their second one. So they're doing pretty good on this turn. Okay. And we are going to repeat that back and forth in a 2-player game and around the table in 3- and 4-player games until somebody has extended their park 4 spaces, any way, which way you want them, as long as you have 4 boards, and these boards are completely filled. Once somebody is able to do that, that triggers the end of the game. You make sure that everybody has a equal number of turns, and then the game ends. Okay. Now, also what you're going to be trying to do here is you also want to fill in completely one of your player boards, or sorry, all of your player boards eventually. So let's just say in a future turn we kind of did that, and I'm just going to kind of try to figure this out here, that maybe in a little bit later they kind of got they got this one there, and they also got like maybe another food street here, something like that. As soon as they place down the tile and that fills in one of these player areas, they get to claim a bear statue. They get to claim the highest valued bear statue, and it kind of fits nicely into that spot right there. And that bear statue is worth 16 points at the end of the game. That's really, really good. So you want to try to set yourself up that you can fill up your player boards faster than the other players, because you're going to get the more points from those bear statues. So there is a little bit of reward here for being able to plan and get tiles to fill out these boards really, really quickly. Now, also what you're trying to be able to do is, if you're playing in the expert game, you're going to want to try to complete these kind of achievements. And there is a whole stack. I believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10. There are only 10. There are 10 different achievements that you can play, and you're always going to play with 3 of them if you choose to play with this variant. In my opinion, always play with the achievement tiles. And so, like, for example, this one will reward a player for having 3 river tiles, such that they're always connected end to end. If you're able to do that, as soon as you get that, boom, claim the top one, 10 points. Now the next person is to be able to do it. If they can do it, it's worth less points. So again, it's a bit of a race element again for claiming points ahead of other players. This one simply says have 3 panda tiles on your player board. That's maybe why this player went for these 2 panda tiles. This one's actually a really unique one, is can you claim 2 bear statues on the exact same turn? This is quite physically possible. My 6-year-old son has been able to do that a couple different times this past week. So that's actually really quite a novel. And then there are tiles that represent the other ones, like there's the polar bears, there is the Kodiak bears, there are there's the panda bears. And then there are the koala bear tiles. There are ones that reward you for having 3 of these special tiles, those enclosure tiles, all next to each other. Having, just 6 of those basic wheelbarrow tiles all connected to one another. Have 3 streets connected end to end. Have 1 of each of the animal enclosure tiles. And yes, the variability, that really changes up the strategy and the guidance towards on a game. So that's how you play Barenpark. You kind of do that, place tiles, claim tiles, until somebody has filled 4 boards completely in, and then add up your points to see who has the best Barenpark or Barenpark. All right, so join me back at the studio, and I'll share with you some of my thoughts and my review of Barenpark. Okay, so that was Barenpark. Phil Walker Harding. It was kind of like one of my introductory games to Phil Walker Harding designs. That and Sushi Go was one of the ones that really got us into kind of gaming quite early on. And Barenpark, it's definitely not a new game right now. Like, it came out in 2017 already, so that's about 5 years now that this game has existed. And wow, does this hold up? Phil Walker Harding is a designer that I always pay attention to when I'm really wanting that new family style game. The complexity is low to the game. Turns are quite simple, but man, does it provide a lot of fun. And this game really has that in spades. We really enjoy the puzzle aspect. Getting the polyomino tiles is really quite simple. Cover up some spaces on the board and get a new tile depending on which space you covered up. It's very easy, very simple. Something that like my son can pick up really quite easily because he's got that association piece already got going, so that if I cover up a symbol, I know which tiles that I'm allowed to take. There is a lot of forward planning that you actually kind of need to do in order to, efficiently build your Barenpark better than the other players at the table, because you are rewarded by being the first being able to claim certain tiles, because there are the animal enclosures that as soon as those tiles are collected, they decrease in value. So being able to claim the higher valued ones first is beneficial. So there's that. Also being able to fill in your player boards first, get you those bear statues, and they decrease in value as well as they go. And of course, those big special tiles, they're worth lots of points. And if somebody can grab the 8-point and 7-point tiles before you can, that could also mean the game as well. So yes, this is just a polyomino tile laying game, but I like to also think about it that it's also a race game, as you are racing to get these better tiles, and you are racing to complete your player board faster than the other players, because if you're able to fill in 4 enclosures first, well, and they are not even close to filling in all their 4, well, you probably have a little bit more of an advantage because you probably have more tiles in your board and they have less, and then the points get tallied at the end. Really like that race aspect just of the descending tiles. Now, that is also one of my drawbacks, is that the setup and teardown of this game is actually quite atrocious. There are a lot of tiles. If you do not have them organized properly, it takes a while to set this game up. Like I have, if you watched already through the video, I have all of my tiles currently organized into little baggies by types, but I still, in some of those types, I have to pull out the correct number of tiles. Or I have in the bear statues, I have to make sure that I grab the correct bear statue tiles. And then the achievement tiles, if you're playing on that mode, they sometimes get all jumbled up in their little baggie, and they're not nicely organized, and I have to find them, and oh my goodness. So sometimes setup in this game is atrocious, and then the teardown is also almost equally as bad, as I have to organize all of the components back into their separate piles, so that setup next game is a little bit simpler. I really wish they kind of took the time to design a proper insert. They kind of threw together these kind of cardboard slabs that fit into the box in kind of like a triangular patterns, and it didn't make any sense. I don't know how somebody thought that was going to be functional, or something that somebody thought that was actually going to be useful for storing the tiles in this game. Like, you saw what my box looked like with the baggies. This thing got full really quite quickly. So I don't know. Like, this is one that you're probably going to want to purchase a third-party insert. Like, I'm really now, just as going through all this again, I'm really looking at that the folded space insert. It actually looks really quite nice. Everything's nicely organized. You just pop them out as you go. It really could have used a really nice insert just for that fact. Let's go on to those achievement tiles, because that's where really the variability in this game is going to be. If you play without the achievement tiles, this game can be quite repetitive at times. Like, there's not a lot to explore, actually. Just being able to put down tiles, collect tiles, and fill up your boards faster than other players, that gets quite stale after a bit. So it's the achievement tiles. Give me something to work towards and try to plan around. That's where the game gets really interesting, because there are 10 different achievements and only 3 are selected every time. So there is quite a number of combinations that you can use for this game. Now, that is, so like I said, that's the variability. They could have increased the variability a little bit if they actually made the tiles, like all the tiles are double-sided, but they're the same on both front and back. A little bit of missed opportunity, especially with the starting tiles. Like, I think that's where the biggest piece would be that there's really only 4 different starting tiles. You could have easily, and then they label them differently. They're different countries on back and forth. Why do 2 countries have the exact same layout? Like, it easily could have been different layouts for at least the starting tiles and everything. So again, a little bit of a missed opportunity, but at the end of the day, this game is a lot of fun. This is probably my go-to game that introduces people to the polyomino puzzle. Now, like with that, and say like a game like Patchwork, but Patchwork is only just a 2-player only game. This, I believe, is more accessible to a lot of different gamers out there. Whether you are experienced or you're just getting into the hobby, this game provides a really excellent entry-level point. And actually, Phil Walker Harding does that really great with most of his designs and everything. They're designed with that kind of like, simple mechanisms. The turn structures aren't very complicated, and yet it still provides a very fun experience. So I definitely recommend checking out this game. This was, again, one of my first introductions to a Phil Walker Harding design. That and Sushi Go, which, oh my goodness, you will definitely enjoy this game, especially if you really like those polyomino type puzzles of trying to, and the race aspect. Man, it's so good. So that is my review of Barenpark by Lookout Games and designed by Phil Walker Harding. If you're really enjoying the videos that I'm putting out onto this channel, the rants, the reviews, and the sometimes playthroughs, please consider subscribing to the channel, clicking that little bell for a notification for when new videos are coming available, and of course, always like and comment on these videos. Are you a fan of Phil Walker Harding games as much as I am? Have you played Barenpark, and what are your thoughts about this family-style polyomino game? Please let me know. I'd be very interested if there's other Phil Walker Harding fanatics out there. So, on that note, I've been Ryan from Mr. Rao's Gaming Rants and Reviews, and I'll like to sign off with Review Over.